The more I think about like just the word fear, it's the one thing that holds us back from doing so many things if you think
Mhm.
about it, and that is kind of what I've learned throughout this whole process is to try to find ways on the daily where I can be more fearless in the things that and the things that I'm doing.
Mhm.
And it's not always easy for me, but I do feel like there's pieces of me that are started to recognize ways in which I've held myself back,
Mm.
that I'm trying really hard to like basically change now moving forward.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Soul Snacks. Today we're going to do some things a little bit different because we have decided to take a little break from the podcast. So this is a season wrap up, if you will. Things definitely get kind of hectic for both of us as the weather starts to warm up. Me with the farm and the flowers and such, and Cammy with real estate. And so we thought, you know what? One of the lessons or one of the things that we've talked about a few different times is how things are seasonal, and it's okay to have seasons in our lives, and that not everything is on a linear path and whatnot. And so we thought, hey, we'll take some of our own advice and try to embody some of those lessons specifically. So it's episode 26, which is awesome.
That's
We're both
crazy.
right. I know.
I know.
So, something to be proud of, and we'll get into talking about what the podcast has taught us so far and some of our takeaways from the season one. But yeah, so we will be back, but probably in the fall, maybe end of summer. But yeah, so um Cammy, let's just like get into it. Also, for everybody listening or watching, like this is totally unscripted. Like we don't really have talking points. It's really just more of a genuine conversation and reflection. So yeah, Cammy,
Love
how
it.
are you
Yeah.
today?
Good. I think it's crazy, when you say 26th episode, like literally there's 52 weeks in a year. So we have been doing this every week for a half a
Oh,
year,
good
you
call.
know?
Yeah.
Um, and it's been absolutely amazing. I've had so much fun with our weekly conversations and there's been a lot of topics that, um, I was just kind of reflecting on everything this morning as I was getting kind of prepared for today and was just thinking about so many conversations that we've had, but then what we've also had with guests that have resonated with me in one way or another, right?
Yeah.
There's been some episodes where I've gotten super fired up about things. There's been some episodes where I've gotten really emotional about things. And I think that's what it's all about, really,
Mhm.
right? Is
Mhm.
is just like creating conversations that can go deep, that can make you feel something, and that can
Mhm.
hopefully resonate with our listeners so that they feel something, or maybe something that we said, will they'll think about it for a long time, like I have
Mhm.
so many times after the conversations that we've had. I just think it's been a really special endeavor, like creative endeavor for me. I'm guessing you probably feel the same way just based on the conversations that we've had on and off camera, right?
So I feel the same way, Cammy. Um, I mean, honestly, I think that one of the things that doing this has reminded me is really like the importance of human connection because you and I talk a lot about how we both work from home, we both work for ourselves, we spend a lot of time kind of like by ourselves. And this has been something where just like once a week, it was something to look forward to that had conversation. And yes, sometimes it was lighthearted and fun and we'd laugh, but also times to your point, like we got deep and we talked about serious things and we talked about things that matter and things that mean something to us and the realities of what the world is going through. And I think it was like the goal was obviously the podcast, but that it created this time for like us to be able to connect and have real conversation about stuff, which
Mhm.
just kind of reaffirmed how important that is for me. And I would think for a lot of people, and how like I need to continue to find those places and find those outlets to where I can have that sort of connection because um Yeah, I didn't necessarily expect that to be such a big part of it, but I feel like it has been, for
Well,
sure.
well, and you and I both come from the 9 to 5, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Corporate America. We both worked in media and digital marketing and in an office, when we were there from 8 to 5 every day. And I think, changing to being completely remote at home, it has so many amazing benefits to it, as you and I have often spoke about, right?
mhm,
Just being able to run our schedules the way we want to, do the things we want to do, not having to ask for vacation time if we need it.
mhm,
But there's also the downside is like the lack of like the like being social with people, right?
mhm,
And being
mhm,
able to have the conversations at the coffee pot or, laugh with people at work about shared experiences that are happening
mhm.
and things like that. And that's the stuff that is hard for me and that I really miss is just that constant interaction with people.
Yeah,
Um so in some ways, this podcast has been a little piece of that for me
yeah,
because I've been able to talk to you about a lot of things and then also, I feel a connection to our listeners as well because a lot of people do reach out via text or phone call or email or whatever and say, "Hey, you said this and it really made me think about that." And that's been really cool too is just seeing how other people I guess perceive what we're doing and if it's help, and understanding from their point of view how it's helping them.
mhm. Yeah,
I love that. I think that's been one of the best parts of all of this.
yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Um, yeah, I'm just thinking about, some of the people that have reached out are also people that I, wouldn't have expected to A, to be
Mhm.
listening to it, B, to be reaching
Yeah.
out, so it's kind of this, yeah, I don't know. It is not that it, validates things, because I also think that one of the lessons for me, or one of the things that I kind of, have carried this during this project is that, sometimes things can absolutely just be done for you. Like, for your own creativity, for your own
Mhm.
expression, not everything needs to have a bigger purpose to it. Sometimes it can literally just be done because you wanna do it, and that's the
Mhm.
only reason that it needs to be, and I think that's literally that's what this has been for both of us, right? Just,
Mhm.
"Hey, we wanna do this, we want it to be an outlet, a connection piece, creative, whatever," and if people listen to it, amazing. But I think to your point, people have listened to it, and people have reached out, and so, yes, we started something because we just wanted to do it, and that could have been reason enough, but to also know that, oh, it is sitting with people and that it's, impacting, or people are wanting to, share their conversations or stories with us. I feel like that's a big bonus, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and, yeah, I think that that has been for me one of the most surprising things too because, I wasn't really sure personally how deep I could go or how much I would feel comfortable sharing,
Mm,
just because I can be a bit of a private person too, and
mhm,
sometimes I keep, like, my thoughts and emotions pretty secret to myself, right? Private.
mhm,
Um, and so I've been able to really I guess open up and be completely vulnerable throughout this process. And I haven't really even thought about how that would look to other people. Like that hasn't ever been my thought process for this show, right? So
mm,
I've just come on the show and been completely myself with really not holding anything back and just kind of talking about my thoughts and my opinions and the way I feel about things and it's been really cool to see how some of that I think has helped other people,
mhm,
because I do think that I've always said I think there's real strength in vulnerability,
mhm,
but then on the other side, like, I am not a person who gets real vulnerable very often. Like, I have a really hard time doing it.
mhm,
So, in some ways, this has been that for me. It's given me an outlet to be vulnerable and to be myself without worrying about what other people think. And what's happened from that has been probably one of the most surprising things.
mhm. Well, yeah, okay, so that's being able to express freely and authentically and from a vulnerable state without having any sort of expectation as to how it's gonna land.
Right.
is something that like I don't know that we really give ourselves the opportunities to do that. And I think because a lot of the time, like if I'm expressing something too, I tend to think about how it's going to land because I want it to come across in the way that I'm sharing it, you know? Like it's important that it lands in the way I want it to come across. But at the same time, you don't want to hold yourself back from saying stuff because you're too concerned with how it could come across. And so I think what you're sharing is like the point of being able to share, not being concerned about what you share, trusting that you can share because it's will land how it needs to. And then from that, people end up connecting to it because
Yeah.
I think like for any, and again, this kind of goes back to the connection piece of like, we come together when we really get a sense of like what being human is about, right? It's so funny though that you say that because I feel like you always express like I feel like you're actually a pretty expressive person. So it's interesting to hear that.
I don't know. I mean, I think to some degree, but I think that there were some episodes this season where we went pretty
I know
like
which
we went
ones.
pretty deep and I got fired up or I got emotional.
Yeah.
Uh got a little teary in in some instances,
Mhm.
had some laughs in some others. I just think that it was almost like just being able to share without caring what other people think,
Mhm.
and for somebody who has lived most of her life as a people pleaser,
Mhm.
it's been so refreshing to be able to do
Mhm.
that and just not really care about what are people like. So what if people are frustrated with whatever I say, then they don't have to listen to the show.
Mhm.
you know that's kind of
Yeah.
how I feel in my head. Like, this is my show, this is my platform. i
Yeah.
can I can be who I want to be and say what I want to say, and if people don't like it, then they don't have to listen to it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there's some freedom in that.
Yeah. Um yeah, there is. It's funny because I feel like I am a person that, like, caveats all over the place, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because
Mhm.
and I could caveat all of our conversations to death probably, where, hopefully it's conveyed that, you know, essentially, like, the type of people that we are and, like, where we stand and what our intentions are and all that sorts of stuff. But I do find myself, like, caveating a lot throughout our episodes. And I've been trying to just think of this like it's funny because I realized it with the podcast, but then I'm also thinking about it just like in life in general, right? And like how I show up in other conversations. Because there's something about like, I don't need to be concerned with what people think of me in terms of everything that I do or say or whatnot. Because there will always be people who disagree. There will always be people who don't
Yeah.
like me and whatever, and that's fine. And I think it's less of like and correct. I know this is not where your intention was, but for me, it's less of like I don't care what people think. And it's more of like, I'm just going to be a real human. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be
Yeah.
real to who I am and not in like a malicious way or like I don't need to care what anybody thinks. Therefore, I can be an asshole and I'm just going to say whatever and
Right.
like yada, yada,
Yeah.
yada. But it's like, I get to have a voice, right? Like, I get to have opinions. I get to show up and say the things that I want to say, hopefully in a way that will land with people. But if it doesn't, then that's okay too because at the end of the day, I want to show up as a human. And
Yeah.
the
And
tears and the anger and the frustration and the uncertainty and the joy and all of that is part of like the human experience, right?
yeah, yeah, just
Um,
being authentic, being able to be
yeah,
authentic to
yeah,
me.
yeah,
And not, and when I say not caring, it's like I don't, yes, exactly like you said. Like of course I care how things land, and
yeah.
I care deeply for people, but if somebody doesn't align with the way I feel about something, that's not my problem.
Mhm,
That's not like I'm not concerned about that anymore,
mhm.
because that's none of my business. If they don't like what I have to say, or they think that I'm wrong in the way that I stand up for something,
Yeah,
then that's not on me.
yeah.
And I think that's something I've learned through this whole process is this is my platform. I'm going to be authentic to me, and I hope that a lot of the things that I say will
Mhm,
maybe make a difference, or will maybe make people think a little harder about it, but by all means, not everybody has to agree with me and where
Mhm.
I stand on things.
Yeah, and I think the whole, like, the people pleasing thing is, like, if I'm not being true to myself because I'm trying to, make sure everybody else is comfortable, then I'm just doing a disservice to myself, and I think that's the
Mhm.
thing that we're like, "Oh, yeah, we get to be true to who we are, say the things that are on our heart, say the things, share our feelings and our values and all this stuff," and at the end of the day, I think the other thing that comes to mind is that, like, people probably don't even care. Like, I think that's one of the
Yeah.
other lessons. Like, I get so caught up in my head sometimes, and I
Oh,
do
yeah.
get conscious of, like, how I wanna say things and how it's gonna be delivered and how is this gonna come across, how's it gonna land. A and to be truthful, like, what are they gonna think and how all the shit, and it's like, most of the time, I'm probably in my head for no good reason, and because people are not gonna care as much as I think they're going to care.
No, no, it's funny. Gosh, my old, one of my old bosses, and to this day, like my biggest mentor told me one time, he's like, Cammy, I hate to break it to you, but nobody cares about you as much as you think that they do.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally,
They don't
totally.
care. They're not like you're like you're so worried about this and that and how things are going to come across and that. He goes, people don't, they're just too self-involved
Yeah,
with everything they have going on. They're not worried about that. You're the
yeah.
only person that's worried about that. And there's like so much truth to that,
Yeah,
you know?
totally. Well, and also, like, I'm just gonna be real for a minute. We're not reaching millions of people every week. You know what I mean? It's like we're not like and so I think there's all these you and I are both people that when we like to get started on something or when we're doing something, we're gonna give it our all, right? We're gonna go
Yeah.
for it, we're gonna
Yeah.
make it happen, we're gonna do the thing. And I think with that comes a lot of expectation that we put on ourselves in order to do the thing. Because we want it to be done well, we want it to be done perfect, and a lot of yada yada yada. But the reality is that, like and I think with this project as a whole, like, we've never done a podcast. Like, you and I figured out how to do all of this, how to edit stuff, how to put like, this whole thing was brand new. And so we have these expectations, I think, that we put on ourselves, but the reality was like, man, we just started something that neither of us knew how to do, and we figured it out, and we've made it work for 26 weeks now. So, like, maybe that's enough, Maybe that's just,
Yeah.
like, some of the yeah, anyways.
Well, and for our listeners who are listening, the editing piece of this, Becca learned much quicker
No.
than I did and has done 97% of the shows she's done all of the editing for. I did the last 2, because I had no idea what I was doing, and she had to sit down and basically record like 30 different looms that were 5 minutes each just to teach me how to do it because I could not figure out in the tutorials on YouTube how to even do it. So, she's being very, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. She's making it seem easy. It's not easy, by the way, or at least it wasn't for me, but I'm also not super techy and I feel like you are. But I'm so glad because there was some times in there where I was like totally freaking out. Like the day that I called you almost in tears because I thought that I had to have everything edited for the next day and I was like slammed at work and my mom had just died and like all this stuff was going on and I was just like I can't do it. There's no way I can do this and you're like, "Dude, calm down." Like, we don't
Okay.
have millions of listeners and no one's going to care if it doesn't come out tomorrow, but it's not even coming out tomorrow. You don't have to do it till next week. And I was like, oh my God. But it's stuff like that where sometimes you forget to give yourself some grace, right?
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I've learned through this process is I am so hell bent on being a perfectionist in so many things in my life. And this type A, as you have now said, quit being a type asshole.
That's my new favorite thing. Quit being a type A asshole.
So, which was basically what I was doing because I was like, it was just, I felt like so much stress and then I got overwhelmed and then I didn't even know what to do. I just had to throw in the towel, like, I can't do it. But then once I slowed down and watched all the looms, I was actually able to do it. And I'm glad that I did because now I know how to do it.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Just in time for our season to end.
Right.
No, but okay, to be fair, also, the words were not "calm down" that came out of my mouth. I think they were more like, "Cammy, it's
It's
okay.
okay.
It'll be
That is what it
fine.
was.
It's things are already good." So I just want to clarify that
That's
for
right,
a
because calm
minute.
down whenever Bill tells me to calm down, it's a
I'm
total hot
like,
button
"Oh
for
no, you
me.
didn't. Just
Oh,
tell
I'm
me
like,
to."
yeah. I'm like, don't ever tell me to calm down, first of all.
I feel like Mark was actually get like words like that were maybe on the tip of his tongue, like, within the last couple days, and it's almost we have this thing where he's if we don't say the thing in our mind, we say, like, "Nope, I'm ripcording," but we both know, like, when we're gonna ripcord before we actually do, which is funny, and I feel like there was a word like that, like, he wanted to tell me to, like, calm down or, like, simmer,
Relax.
relax, something, and he, like, totally ripcorded beforehand, but I was like, "Were you just gonna tell me to calm down?" Because
Yeah,
yeah, don't tell
Bill
me that.
kn yeah, Bill knows, like, if he ever says relax or calm down, he knows it's not gonna go well because
Yeah.
that is like a hot button for me. I It's a trigger for sure. So, yes, you're correct. You didn't tell me to calm down, but you, in your very nice way, told me it was okay, and then to me in my head was like, "I need to calm down." Like, I'm way over the top on this thing that matters way more to me than it does to anybody else.
But well, I think that shows, like, how much we actually do care about, like, putting out a decent product and show and having conversations that will mean something to people.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but I also think that, like, I don't know, I feel there has been so much this season
Mm,
that you've had to navigate. Yeah, even just still showing up to do the thing every week, to be present, to put stuff out, like, and um your desire to have learned this stuff earlier on has always been there, right? Like ever since
yeah.
we got started, you're like, "Hey, I want to learn how to do this stuff. I want to learn how to do this stuff." The reality is that like I had more space and time to be able to tackle most of it, you know? But I think even just, you know, the fact that you were able to show up and be as consistent and be dedicated to it in the capacity that you had, um, especially with something brand new, like, I think that's, worth celebrating, you know?
Yeah, I am proud of us for getting through 26 episodes. I mean,
Yeah,
literally a half a year every week showing up, having conversations. Like it's been
yeah.
really, really fun. Um,
And we're more
and
capable than we thought we probably were starting this out, right? Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know, and I think it's a reminder of like, hey, yes, it can be uncomfortable starting something new. Neither of us had the expertise to do this. We were figuring it all out from scratch and that we are still able to do it. And so I think maybe the more general lesson or thought for everybody is that like the discomfort, the uncomfortable, the uncertainty, all that stuff is part of the normal process. And that at the end of the day, you're probably more capable than you thought you were at the beginning of something, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
once you get through stuff.
yep, yeah. And there were definitely growing pains for us. I mean, but I don't know. I think it's just
Hmm.
been super fun.
Yeah.
Uh, d- was there? Do you feel like there were? Because I mean, we've had countless topics. I mean,
Hmm.
we've had so many different things that we've talked about over the last 26 weeks. Were there any conversations that you can look back on that you feel like shifted your perspective on anything at all? I know that's kind of a putting
Um,
you on the spot there, but is there anything that stands out that has made you think, "Oh, that's interesting."
yes. I mean, there are I think honestly, like all of the interviews that we did, with
Mhm.
Jamie, with Anne, with Sammy, with Julia, like all of those topics, like there were nuggets in each one of those where I'm like, okay, like that's something to like really keep in mind like Julia's takeaway around like anxiety, like if it's supposed to be uncomfortable but it's not supposed to like keep you from enjoying your life, like this little
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, like that's what it's like, right? Or
Mhm.
like when Anne was talking about with leadership, how if like, what is the value that they're like good leaders, or what is the value not only that you're contributing to the team, but that you're bringing as a human being, like I'm
Yeah.
starting to look at the leaders I know in my life, like through that lens almost. And like
Yeah.
the role of women in leadership and what that looks like specifically. with I think with Sammy and like the community piece, and because there's actually been a conversation I've been having with a friend about starting kind of just like a small like women's circle, essentially, just like a very casual, like once a month meet up in person. You don't have to prepare for anything. It's not like a book club. You don't have to, it's like literally show up how you are, as you are, wherever you are. And like just to create that space to like sit down in person and just like have that.
Yeah.
And I feel like with Sammy and the community conversation was really like, oh, but how do you do that in a way that can still feel really intentional and like having the mission and having the values and being a member as much as you might be a leader in the group. Like, so I feel like there were pieces from all of those conversations that are so relevant to like where I'm at in my life right now that are like easy to reflect on. And I don't know if they like changed my perspective on anything, but if they were like added nuggets of wisdom to make sure that I'm really trying to like utilize in my own life. But then I also think some of the conversations that we've had, just the two of us, like when I think about, the one we did way back at on the comparison trap, right? Or when
Mm,
we like,
mhm.
there's some of these things where I think what's always been difficult for me, it's like I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly trying to reflect on my life and where I stand and based on the experiences I have. Like I'm a person that I feel like is always evolving, growing. I try to anyways. And so I look at some of those conversations and it's like, gosh, well, this sounded really matter of fact when in reality, not that things have changed since then, but like I've learned so much more. Or maybe it sounded like I was really strong on this front when in reality, like, no, these are still things that I am working through every single day. Like the comparison trap, for example. I am working through that shit every day, all the time, still. And maybe it's something like
Regina's
totally.
gotcha.
Totally, and for as much as I think that, like for as much as I have improved it or the mindset shifts or all the stuff, it's like, man, it is probably something that I will just work at all the time. And so I
Mhm.
think, like, kind of to sum up the question, long-winded per usual here over in my neck of the woods, I don't think that, like I think I just am trying to give myself permission to constantly be evolving and
Yeah,
learning and
yeah,
exploring things, and I think part of what this podcast has like it's brought that really front and center because every week we're talking about stuff that we're really passionate about and that we feel like, yeah, we've probably got a good grasp on, and at the end of the day, we're in it as much as anybody listening to it's going to be in it too. It's
mhm.
never about like, hey, we're some gurus or guides or these like wellness experts or anything like that. We're just normal fucking people. Sorry, F bomb.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry, like, sharing parts of our lives and our opinions and whatever, and allowing the messy to be there, and I think it's like a reminder, like, the messy gets to have a place, and that it doesn't
Yeah,
always need to come across in some polished way. I don't know. That was a
yeah.
really long random thing that, you know,
Well,
went
it's
4
just
different
it goes
directions
back
per
to be
usual.
like yeah, but it's kind of like, we can be perfectly imperfect, right?
Totally,
Like,
yeah.
you can let the messy have a place and a space, and we all have it.
Yeah,
Let's face it, like, we've all got it. We're emotional beings, right?
yeah, for
We
sure.
have a myriad of emotions every single day, and to be able to have a place, to express them, I think has been really special.
Yeah. What about
And
you? Oh, are there
y
conversations that really left
yeah.
a mark?
Um, yeah, a lot of them actually. I feel like, yeah, I really liked Julia's comment about, you know, about anxiety and how we all have fear because we're human. But
Mhm.
then if it, begins to make your world small, then that, that's something that you should probably look into or be concerned with. And I think that's so true. I mean, that one really like resonated with me. Like, wow, I never really thought about it like that. But it's so true. Like, because when I think about fear and the things that I haven't done in my life because I've been fearful of what the outcome might be, I think that conversation has given me a bit of a shift in perspective now about fear.
Mhm.
and about trying things. And it kind of dovetailed with Jamie's, the conversation we have with Jamie about just trying new things, right?
Mhm.
And when you have an opportunity that comes before you to say yes and to try something new, do it.
Mhm.
And don't be afraid to do it. Like she's fearless in the way
Mhm.
that she approaches things, and it's worked out really well for her. Um and I think that's a really beautiful way to live, to not let
Mhm.
the fear get in the way. It's really hard for me. And I admire that she can do that. And then, yeah, you and I have had some great conversations about the comparison trap was one of my favorite or pivotal moments. That
Mhm.
was a really good one. I think that one of the conversations that you and I had about, my inability to speak my mind sometimes when I'm not aligned with somebody, especially when it comes to like our political stances and not having the courage to stand up to somebody because I'm afraid of how it might damage a relationship. And, your comment back of if if you're in a relationship with somebody, it's a relationship, right? So you should be able to be completely honest with somebody. And if they don't like your honesty and the way you feel about something and your stance on something, if they can't respectfully give you the floor to talk about that and be respectful about it, then it's not much of a relationship. And I I guess I never really like looked at it like that. That was really eye-opening for me,
Mm.
which is so stupid, right? It seems like
No,
it's the
it's
most basic,
but it's
like,
not. It's not,
thing.
especially when we're first of all, we're raised to not have tough conversations most of the time. I think
Yeah.
both you and I have struggled with like the people pleasing thing. We talked the first half on this episode about how being able to express ourselves genuinely in a space that we know will land, right? Like I always know that if I'm going to express myself that like you're going to create space for me to do that. And hopefully it lands with our listeners too, but we're not always we have I'm sure haven't always had examples to do that. I think generally speaking in society, we're definitely conditioned to like stay small, stay quiet, especially as women. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
like it seems like it should be something that is very obvious in a relationship, but the reality is that when we talk about connection and wanting to be, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like there's a very real part of it that gets stifled because we want to make sure people like us, love us, accept
Mhm.
us, whatever that looks
Mhm.
like. And so
Mhm.
I don't think it's unrealistic that now in midlife or even for younger generations, we're having more of those conversations. It's like being able to stand up for yourself in whatever kind of relationship is a thing. So I don't know. Yeah, we're learning, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah. Yep. And, the more I think about like just the word fear, because it was something Julia brought up, it was something
Mhm.
Jamie brought up, it was something that we've talked about many a times. It's the one thing that holds us back from doing so many things if you think
Mhm.
about it, and I guess that in a nutshell is kind of what I've learned throughout this whole process is to try to find ways on the daily where I can be more fearless in the things that and the things that I'm doing.
Mhm.
And it's not always easy for me, but I do feel like there's pieces of me that are started to recognize ways in which I've held myself back,
Mhm.
that I'm trying really hard to like basically change now moving forward. And that's been a really beautiful thing, you
Mhm.
know?
Well, I'm curious. Do you want to share what some of those are, or maybe what one of them is, if you're up for it?
Just like I think one of them is just being more vocal and speaking my mind on how I feel on, the like, right now, like, the political front, right? So, I had dinner with a friend, the other day who's, we're both very respectful of each other, so it was a good place to start the conversation and to be able to feel safe in the conversation. But instead of just kind of listening and nodding and kind of blowing it off, I pushed back,
Mhm.
on some stuff that I was pretty passionate about. And, and she was great about it.
Mhm.
She was like, "Yeah, I get that. I understand that." And, I don't know if she agreed with it,
Mhm.
but if she didn't, she didn't. make me feel like an asshole for saying
Mhm.
what I thought. I
Yeah.
think she listened and she respected that I had my own opinion, and then we moved on.
Mhm.
But it was definitely a different I took a different approach than I have in the past, and it
Mm.
felt really good to do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, I think it's
yeah.
was kind of one of those full circle moments
Mhm.
that came as a result of this amazing podcast
Mhm.
we've been doing for the last half of a year.
Yeah, I know it's wild that it's been that long. Um, already. I mean, I feel like we'll be coming into season 2. I'm sure we'll have new ideas and we'll have new thoughts, and maybe it'll be a totally different format and we'll be doing things, totally different, or maybe it'll be exactly this. But I think that you and I are both, like, I'll be honest, like, I'm excited for a little bit of a creative break, right? And to
Yeah,
be able
yeah,
to just you know, focus on some other things right now. And but yeah, I feel like we might still have to just like schedule Friday calls.
yeah.
just
I
just to
know,
talk. Because
I know.
maybe it's like they were meeting up to like hike or do something in person though, instead of
Yeah,
via computers, because you don't need to record. And who knows, people, maybe we'll surprise you with a random episode somewhere through the summer just because we feel like chatting it up. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I know that I think season 1, here's what I'm glad. Like, I am really proud of us because we've talked about doing things in the past and they've never come to fruition. And this is
yeah.
something that we talked about and it's come to fruition and we're enjoying it and we're moving forward with it. And I think that is such a awesome thing, because I don't know
Mhm.
about you, but there's so many times where like I get I get focused on the outcome, right? Like, what's the outcome going to be? And if I don't think the outcome is going to be there, then I won't even start, you know? And I
Mhm.
think that with this, like, we didn't really have an outcome. And I think that's been kind of nice. The
Yeah,
outcome was just, hey, let's meet up, or let's record, let's talk through things, whatever. And I think that's been nice. And it's allowed us to just kind of like keep going too.
yeah.
Um, so yeah. All right. Well, anything else you want to chat through before we sign off for the
I
season?
I don't think so. I agree. I'm excited for season 2. I think that it's going to give us some good time to reflect and come up with some really cool ideas and topics for next season, and hopefully be able to get some guests lined up for, for the next one that comes out. And
Yeah.
I'm just so appreciative of everybody who has taken the time to listen and who's been a subscriber and who listens on the weekly and sends texts and, you know, lets us know like how much they're enjoying the show. That's been really it always makes me feel so good when people reach out and say that.
Mhm.
Means a lot to me.
I feel like I'm actually getting maybe a little bit emotional over here. Like the thought of like, oh, season 1 ending and having a break, and like people like, guys, we're not trying to let you down for over the next summer. We want you to go out and have an amazing summer and do the things.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you miss us, just touch base with us on social or send us an email or something. But yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of getting, there's a little bit of sadness, I think, wrapping up season 1.
Well, and I hope that, like, anyone who's listening to this, if you have ideas for
Oh
topics
yeah.
or things that you
Hmm.
might want to hear about or have us talk about, or if you have somebody that you think would be an amazing guest to have on our show, please email us, reach out to us, text us, whatever you want, however you can get in touch with us. We're always open. I mean,
Hmm.
like Becca said, we're not reaching millions of people. We're small right now, and we are agile and we can bring on who we want to bring on, and I think now's the time, right? Let's do this. Let's
Have
get
some fun
in
with it.
our yeah, we're going to be in our off season planning and creating and getting ready to launch season 2. And so yeah, if you have anything,
Hmm.
please let us know.
And one thing that I will do with the show notes on this episode too is that while we're not doing the podcast, and we'll still, be fairly active-ish maybe on socials, but I'll make sure to drop Cammie's handle and my handle so you can follow along with the stuff that we're doing, because this is like both of our prime seasons, her with real estate, me with flowers and the farm and stuff. So I'll make sure that if you guys want to follow along with us there too, that you've got that information to do so.
Love it.
So
All right. Well, that's a wrap, girl. Season 1 in the
in the
books.
books.
And we can't wait to start back up season 2 in the fall.
Thanks,
Thanks for
everybody.
everybody. We appreciate you.
We'll see
See
you
ya.
soon.
Bye.